you would always look to sell all your units, or like you will be looking for leasing your units, which
it's about, at the moment, it's about how to survive, sustain, and then probably recovery period.
do you think that retail investments makes more sense than any kind of commercial or residential investment for capital yielding?
Over a period of time, work from home will actually have a negative effect on your employees, your productivity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Realty Talk show by Gofar. This is Aashiq Ahamed, Managing Director of Gofar Corporate Private Limited. So Gofar is a real estate service company where we deal with consultancy, management, investment and development of real estate properties. So Realty Talk show. Realty Talk show is an initiative by Gofar Corporate to discuss about one of the biggest sector, uh, the world's biggest commodity sector, we can say. It's none other than real estate. So it's a $230 billion company, $230 billion sector, huge industry, which is there since the inception of, since inception of our year. So we can say, and also like this, I hear converse with some of the prominent real estate developers and prominent real estate consultants regarding the market dynamics. So real estate market trends, insights with relevant data and statistics provided. And today we have Mr. Zarook Shah, who is the director of Grand Square Mall, which is in Velachery, and he's running a resort called Old Kent Resort in Kurg. I welcome you, Mr. Zarook. Thanks for participating for the second. Probably we are catching up for the second time. The last time it was very productive, it was very informative, and thanks to you for joining us for the second time. Please, yeah, want to open up with. Yes, Zarook Shah.
Thanks, Aashiq. I'm very happy to be interacting with you again. So again, I think we are in the third 3.5 months of lockdown.
Yes,
and the whole situation has been very fluid, so we don't know how the markets are going. There's no real predictions, when people ask me how the market is going to revive, and there are a lot of different views, there's no common predictions, because it's not like Lehman, in 2008 we had the financial crisis, or maybe even a tsunami or a floods. We were able to assess. It took about certain time. Unfortunately for COVID, we don't have a time limit. In fact, the last time when we were speaking, the cases were just peaking. So we were in lockdown, but the cases are not alarming. But now, like day over, it's been alarming, and then now we are the fourth biggest nation for corona, and then we could be, in fact, number one if we are actually testing everybody.
Yes.
The whole dynamics has been changing a lot, and now it's like we can't think really far ahead. It's like about people in any industry talk about, except for few, maybe healthcare or essentials, or everybody's thinking on a very short-term goal, and they have like short-term, medium, and long-term goals at the moment. It's about how to survive, sustain, and then probably recovery period. So it's the dynamics are very different at the moment. And same, with retail is also again the same. So, and as we know, we don't know when the malls are going to open, at least in Chennai.
Exactly. That is what is or the whole session is going to be, because as you said rightly, last time when we spoke, it was kind of an initial stage of this thing, and now we're able to witness kind of a huge drastical changeover in the nation. What is happening right now, because we haven't expected, even though we started our lockdown so soon, so early, but still we we are kind of witnessing so much of cases each and every day, which is, I always say to all the speakers of mine, actually, it's more than a biological impact. What is happening right now, it's a kind of an economical crash down. So economical crash down is twice the impact of biological complications, whatever we are confronting. So yes, let us start with a very common question now. Since we are dealing with the current scenario thing, we need to talk with that. You are a retail owner, and also you are owning a hospitality, unit or resort in Kurg and everything. So because you're dealing with these two things, now to be very forthright, this particular pandemic has affected, we can say, all the industries, all sort of industries. To be very forthright, only the industries which are online education platforms, software, and everything, they're quite sustaining. Probably we can say 80%. Even they confront a loss of 25 to 30% of loss because of their office space and all those stuff like that, because they're coming work from home and everything. Every industry has got has confronted a huge complication. To be very forthright, the first top 5 industries, we can say easily real estate. Real estate is one of the sector which is hugely affected. And in real estate, we can say retail and hospitality is really affected. Why? Because hospitality and tourism is the first most affected industry in the world. No tourism, no travel, and no, if there is no travel, probably, like the lodgings and stay or hospitality sector is completely gone. In retail is something, where people need to come to the retail shops and everything. So that is by showing their presence. So that is how the retail unit works. So that is also a big thing. So like, what, as an owner, I just wanted you to give a complete thought process and perspective. How serious the issue is right now? Because last time when we spoke, it was different, but right now, how serious is the issue? How deeply it got affected? This particular industry got affected. Please.
I'll talk in both in terms of retail and hospitality, which I'm connected.
Yeah.
So when we had the general lockdown for the country, the malls in Chennai, we shut down even a week earlier, and we were expecting expecting the government to open probably April 1st. We were looking for a 2-week lockdown, and so it was actually, even that 2 weeks was quite detrimental. It was not good for a mall, because most of our income is related to the rentals and the common area maintenance charges we collect, and that's how the mall sustains. And then we were okay at that time. We were a little bit prepared for about a month, so probably we were able to sustain in April, March, April, yeah. But after that, like, the case of corona was not going down. In fact, it was going up. So then the lockdowns extended. So we were facing challenges like a lot of different platforms, especially, I mean, the malls is very dependent on the retailers. And unfortunately, the retailers were now also not able to sustain the businesses. And then, in fact, even till today, we're just negotiating on the terms with the retailers. And it's all interdependent, because the retailers doesn't want to pay the rentals. I mean, they're not willing to pay the rentals during lockdown. That is fine. But even after the lockdown, they are telling us that they're going to either cut the minimum guarantee which they pay, even almost as 50-70%, or go on a revenue share for a longer period of time. Because unfortunately, they also not going to have businesses like before. Their business is going to be reduced by almost half. That's the prediction. And they don't know when the curve is going to go up, and in terms of retail sales curve. But unfortunately, as a property, most of the developers, small developers, are highly leveraged to the banks. And now, okay, we have a breather now. We have a 6-month EMI moratorium. But once it is going to be lifted after September, we need to start paying our EMIs. And if the rentals don't come, we can't afford to pay our EMIs. Apart from, I mean, that is main thing. And at least in Chennai, we don't know when the malls are going to open. Even if the malls are going to open, the theaters are not going to open for a long time. We don't know when the theaters are going to open. Yeah. And the mall is very entertainment-driven industry. And in the current scenario, when the corona stuff is increasing, even for essentials, people are hesitating to go and buy in supermarkets. So even if the mall opens, probably we'll be having only 20-30% of the original walk-ins. One, people will not come. Number two, even the government is restricting the number of people who's going to be inside the mall. So there's going to be a lot of SOPs which is already been done. And then, in fact, malls open in other states. So we've been getting reports. The walk-in has drastically reduced. Until the cinemas and entertainment opens, the mall is going to take a big hit. So probably God forbid, but we're looking at a lot of malls closing, and it is going to be it's going to be a huge challenge. And probably it'd be the fittest who will survive. Probably the bigger mall developers might survive, and but the smaller and medium-sized malls, will have a huge struggle in at least in the next 6 to 8 months. And then, at the moment, as I said before, we are in a survival mode. We are in like an ICU, ventilator. So now the very important aspect is how our relationship with retailers are, and how the retailers are willing to support us. I mean, we already supporting them in terms of waiver and everything, but the retailers also have to come forward to help us. So it is not just one way. Both the ways, retailers has to help the malls, and the malls have to help the retailers to sustain and take us through the tough times. Regarding hospitality, at least thankfully, Coorg has opened. Chennai and West is not open. And I think I told you in the last conversation is exactly what has happened. Smaller properties are getting attraction. We already started getting bookings for a property.
That's nice. That's really good news.
And exactly what I predicted last time, because now since work from home is the norm, we're getting bookings for longer period of time. So before, whenever like there's a booking, it used to be normally for 2 nights, 3 days, or 3 nights, 4 days maximum. Now we're getting like 4 nights and up, which has not happened before.
Mm.
And in fact, obviously, like still Bangalore is much better off in terms of corona cases. And our closest destination is Bangalore. We have a lot of bookings for people who are staying there for a longer period of time.
Mm.
And again, in the hospitality, Touchwood, we were a smaller boutique resort.
Mhm.
Properties like that are more will be more viable or more suitable at the moment. And people even if it's a resort, they are hesitant to go to a bigger resort because of crowd. So at least in the hospitality side, we're a little bit luckier since we are smaller property. We are secluded. And going forward, probably like a lot of people are looking into coming into that kind of a format. Generally, in terms both of retail and hospitality, bigger is not good anymore.
Correct,
It's like
correct.
being smaller, agile,
Yeah,
and trying to adapt the solution as the way forward.
correct.
And as you said, as of now, I mean, we are in the survival mode regarding retail.
Okay, wonderful. See, probably you've given a clear picture and overview about what's happening right now as a retail owner and a hospitality owner. See, we have seen to be very practical. See, I'll give you an article thing actually. So, Economic Times has released that for the last 3 months, the retail industry I'm talking about, particularly we can call it as malls. The malls are the malls and high street units and all those things, all retail sectors and everything. We have confronted a loss of 90,000 crores. So this is an article which has been released by Economic Times in association with the Indian Brand Equity Foundation. So for the last 3 months, and expected to be 25% depreciation in the revenue for the next future in case if it gets repeated. Probably in the next 6 months or 7 months, this 2020 is gone. We can say in case if I probably like we must always look for the positive cases, but in a practical way, if you get to look at these things, 2020 is kind of very bad with where they are saying 25% of the revenue depreciation might be there in the retail industry. So now looking at all these things, what do you see as a growth thing for the next? How do you see how fast will we like inflate? Why? Because always real estate sector is one kind of sector. I'm including all retail, hospitality, every such thing. The faster we deflate, the more faster we inflate. That is what it happens every time. But this particular sector, as we know that actually we've been getting blow after blow because of due to many various things because of this particular I'm talking about. Like we got demonetization, we got GST taxes, we got RERA restrictions, we got like different. See, these are the things which is keep on happening because of different things. Now, kind of disaster which is came forward, which was unexpected. We are getting blow after blow. Now, how will we, like now is after this pandemic, will that be a right time for inflating so soon, so early, or do you think the growth curve would be something like what stabilized and everything? I can say to be very very precise, sorry for taking time, to be very precise, I can give you three scenarios where I wanted to ask you whether it will take a V curve which has gone down and immediately it will like shoot up, or it'll take a U curve which will like stay for a little time or something like after that, or it'll take something like a W curve, it'll go up and down, crust and troughs and everything, or it'll be in a L scenario, which will always be stable. So this is the something which people are wanted to know that. So as a mall owner, you have practical perspectives over these things. What do you expect, Zarook?
See again, and the retail, probably the retail and commercial side, retail, it's again compared to 3 months ago, our fear of corona has actually come down because now with you or with me, we have been hearing immediate circles being affected by corona, and it's not as bad as it seems. Like it is like another viral fever. Okay, I mean, it's like any other disease. If you have hypertension or even if you're getting dengue, so there is a fatality rate. So now people are learning to live with COVID, but with the safety measures, right? So what I'm thinking is,
It will
in terms
become a
of
new
retail,
normal.
it is a new normal. I mean, people are still scared. Okay, they're taking precautions, but it's not like what happens if it comes. They, I mean, I know my colleagues, my employees have been affected, but I
Okay.
asked them, how is it? It's fine, sir. I mean, like 3 days, I'm back at home. So once you start accepting that, so you accept that, and then you start going back to your normalcy in terms of your office or retail, and then in retail industry, there'll be very a big pent up demand. like a lot of people have been restraining. But again, we are social. We need to go, and it's not only for entertainment. If the movie theater is opening up, do you think people still sit at home? They will go. We'll have a lot of people going to see movies. In terms of retail, and again in terms of commercial space, we're talking about office spaces. There will be a weaker, so probably for the next 3 to 6 months, there is going to be a dip. But once we come to the new normalcy and if people accept it, there is going to be a big, um, a big growth for in the retail sector. This is again, I mean, the situation is very fluid. We still don't know how the whole thing works. Even in other cities, we're just getting reports, and then in fact, some of the reports my colleagues have told from other cities in Bangalore, it's not that it is not affected as badly as been expected. They're seeing slightly better walk-ins than they expected.
Bangalore is doing good, actually. Even I've read about it, actually.
When the theaters are open, I think we will be maybe not 100% pre-COVID, we'll be almost 60-70%, which is still good. Whereas in residential, it's mostly about the residential sector. It's mostly about a couple of things which is actually affecting the market. One, people has deferred their buying habits because of salary cuts, or at the moment the job is not secure. Even if they have planned to buy within this year, they're deferring it because at the moment it's about survival. Everybody needs money to survive. So they can't leverage the funds at the moment. So they're waiting for
Right time.
for the pandemic to get better, and then even their situation to have some clarity about their situation for them to buy. So and also I've been reading. So if people have some liquidity, if they want to have beat and safe hands more than investing in real estate, they're going more into fixed deposits and gold for the short term.
Okay.
On the other side, there is also, we have NRIs, people living in the US or Europe where it's again badly hit. They also want to have a safety net. Again, in the US, because of Corona and because of the administration, people are not very sure about they be living in the US, so they need to have a safety net, and they're scouting for properties in India. In fact, I've spoken to a few of my real estate friends. They said a lot of inquiries which has come from abroad, and those deals are closing better than the local. And there are two reports. One, people are waiting to buy, but there are still investors who are ready to buy. Again, like in the real estate, the real estate sector was already hit by, as you said, rightly said, because of demonetization, GST, RERA. Even before the pandemic, we were hit. The real estate, the residential sector was already hit. But now, because of the labor shortage, construction started, but labor shortage and material shortage, most of the material was dependent from China. And steel, or talking about electronic equipments, or windows, glasses.
Even the construction materials, the prices has gone really high. The cements and the steel and everything, it's gone really high.
And even there is a huge financial crunch on the developer side also. So one, the projects are going to be delayed, and then two, there is going to be a deferred decision by the home buyers at the moment. And the curve will, as I said, it will be more of a U curve. It takes some time and it goes slowly, and which is also good for the market, because maybe there might be some correction in the market, which is actually good overall, because the prices of the Indian real estate sector was really heated up. It's not in parity for the reality. So probably it maybe needs a little bit of correction, and people will also. Now the sellers are not selling because they're still sticking to the old prices. And buyers are not willing to buy because they're thinking the prices might come down. So the wait and see attitude is that at least till the next year. Once they know the prices are right, they will start buying. And in fact, the buyers need some security about their livelihood also. First, they're going to look for the livelihood. Once they are secure about their livelihood, probably they'll start investing in real estate. So probably the real estate on the residential sector will be in a U curve. And more on the retail and commercial, will be like more of a V curve,
Okay.
Because
what about commercial, Zarook, actually? Because retail probably you've seen everything. Commercial is becoming more of the people are opting. Because when I get to talk to the residential developers and everything, you can finish it up. Probably I can put up my point after that.
This exact. I'm trying to finish your point. We're hearing a lot of work from home. That's going to be the future. But again, if you see, there are two reports coming from people are telling it's been more productive. But since I'm interacting with a lot of people, office goers, in fact, before this lockdown, when I used to go to the office, I had my friends working for big multinationals, they came to my office just because they're very stressed being at home 24 hours. The work from home model probably is good for the short term. It is not a viable option for a longer term. And I think a lot of
Correct.
commercial spaces are. In fact, I read in the newspaper, and Kevin Kerr is trying to vacate their spaces in their 4 locations and then making everybody work from home. I don't think so. It's the right solution because over a period of time, work from home will actually have a negative effect on your employees, your productivity, and so when during that time, probably they will start looking back into
I guess
commercial.
you're right. You're right, actually, because obviously we are quite used to this. Going outside, work from work from distant thing, actually, because that's something, like our mentality is quite used to that kind of thing. Because definitely we cannot spend, even this lockdown has given such a good proof that we're not able to spend time at home, being over here working, and because it's the productivity is lost. That is what I feel.
I mean, you at office you have your confined spaces, you have your so everything is kind of
More
your
than that, we
psychology.
have employees, we have networks, we can talk to them, we can, because the productivity always rises in, when you get to work with the people over there, actually it's always there, actually, as you said, as you rightly said. And also,
And
yeah, yes, please, yeah, please.
the same thing again, like not only about in the mental health, it's also about because our homes are not suited for work from home because this has happened all of a sudden. So most of the people, most of us are living in apartments, right? So we either work at our bedroom on the bed, or or maybe in a dining table. So it's
Correct.
not suited for your work environment. So you can't at a length work and at that kind of environment. It's actually causing a toll on your health as well. Maybe your back and your spine. And
Correct.
then for long term, I think work from home is not an option. So when people realize that, commercial spaces will be again
Correct.
back in demand. So that,
Correct.
as I said, that feel like a recurve.
Correct. Wonderful. So you've given a clear perspective on what's going to happen with the residential and what's going to happen with the retail and hospitality. Sorry, retail and commercial. What about hospitality? Do you have any this thing on any guesses on any presumptions on hospitality? Uh,
Hospitality will take a long time. I mean, first of all, tourism is going to be hit at least in international tourism. Forget about it for at least like year and a half.
mm,
Domestic tourism, interstate is also going to take a hit. I mean, you'll not see people from North India coming to the south. Localized tourism, for example, people from Madras would like to go to Pondicherry or to Mahabalipuram. That's about
okay.
it.
Okay.
And again, like as I said, people from Bangalore, Mysore will like to go to Coorg or Kabini.
Got it.
So localized tourism will have a benefit out of it. And one good thing about this work from home, for example, younger couples who still don't have children, or still they have not a school going child, will prefer to have a longer. That's what they call a stay vacation. So they stay at a smaller hotel where the prices are lower, and then they don't have to interact with a lot of people. So this kind of a sector, probably in Coorg, there are a lot of homestays. These kind of sector will actually grow, and bigger hotel chains definitely will take a big hit. So we're talking about Tajes and Oberoi's. First of all, people will not spend in luxury at the moment, so forget
Definitely.
about that.
Yeah.
And again, I don't mean it's again how the government is going to bail them out is the next question. We don't know. And airline industry or portals like Make My Trip and all of them, OYO has
Highly
taken a
prefer.
big,
Oh, yeah,
and
it's taken a very big hit. Yeah, yeah. I've read the article about that.
smaller, there'll be a small growth or a benefit in resorts like ours. So
Mhm.
initially, what we thought was a disadvantage being small is actually now become an advantage.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, probably, like you're telling the smaller is the new bigger. It's becoming something like that, actually. Fine. So, like, as you've said, like you've given some reports and everything. So, unexpectedly, we are able to see that Bengaluru is like slightly emerging through this economy thing. And because, they started, I'm able to, read the reports and every stuff like that, like now in the retail sector, the residential sector, even the residential investments, it was very shocking. But still, the truth is actually, even people have started investing into residential properties because they want and own residential flats and every stuff like that. So, it's a lean market space has been opened and Bengaluru. Probably we can expect soon that in Chennai as well. Okay, now getting into the business terms. Now the conversation is about as a mall owner. So I want to ask, like, what would be your preference? Like whether you would always look to sell all your units or like you will be looking for leasing your units. Which one is always good for you, because you will look for a capital acquirement, or you look for a capital yielding every month, which is something like a recurrence. So which is beneficial, as a property owner, what do you see like that? There
I'll
are so
tell you
many
the best.
property. Hmm.
Yes, I'll tell you the best example. The first mall in India was Spencer's Plaza.
Okay.
Spencer's Plaza, because during the time people did not have a mall experience, so
Mhm.
they went on a sale model. Okay,
Okay.
and as you see, initially, okay, the investors got a lot of returns for their investment. But over a period of time, sale model doesn't really work for a mall, because mall need a cohesive mall management. So you need to
Mhm.
have whether it's communication or your housekeeping or your electricity. Once you have a sale model, there'll be about 50, 100, or maybe owners in a mall. You can't have multiple owners. Probably you can have one or maybe two owners in the mall. That is the best way how a mall works. And you there was another like biggest big failure. There was another mall which came up in Mandalore. It's called Gold Souk. It went on a sale model, and unfortunately, it never even started.
Hmm.
So, as for a mall, you can have only a lease model. That is the right thing for the mall perspective, and for the landlords or the developers. But to on the other side, for example, bigger malls, say Phoenix or Innobit or Express, so it's good to have a complete ownership. For a smaller mall like us, there could be hybrid way. I mean, it's something you can have some of your big spaces sold not to an investor but to the retailer themselves. You can have your anchor client
Hmm.
sold to a retailer. What that means is this retailer is bound with you, so he's not going to leave you. So
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
for the smaller mall, the biggest challenge is your tenants leaving you. For example, now
Correct.
at a
Correct.
mall,
You should always have the
biggest.
presence, because yeah, correct. Your tenants should always be present.
So if I'm able to sell one of my big spaces to a retailer, not an investor, that actually could work for a smaller mall. This is my personal view. I mean,
Okay.
it's no
That's
right.
good. That's good actually. Yeah.
Because they're going to stick with you, and having a biggest tenant always with you is actually a big plus point for you. And but overall, as a mall, if you ask me, the sale model doesn't work. It'll be more of a leasing model.
Okay. So it's more of a leasing mall actually. Now you say, like people are preferring, like rentals more than, like buying a property. Correct.
Retailer.
Yeah, retailers. That's what you're trying to say, because like
Because
you,
if you're buying capital cost is very high.
yeah. And also
And
this,
not
this brings me one more point actually. We have a beautiful question over here, because like, see, there were many retailers, to be very full, we can say there are many huge brands. What they do actually, what they do is, initially I'm talking about the like the period before 2000 and 1990s and all those stuff actually. So people who are starting up the units, people who are starting getting into really retail kind of thing, people, they used to buy the property and they put up their unit, they install their unit, and now what happens is actually that is giving a huge asset to them, rather than a liability that's becoming a huge asset to them. Even though if they go bankrupt, probably they have a huge asset to liquidified. So that is how the retailers are working. But one point of time, people have started leasing out more than like buying a properties and everything. Even though they have like investments to buy out the property and they do it and everything, but they prefer leasing. Like why do you think the retailers are not into buying it? Why? Because all the retail properties which are existing right now has been bought by an investor and has been leased to a retailer. This is the actual criteria what's happening right now. With this, like I can give you an example. Probably you can explain about that as well, because we have a beautiful examples of McDonald's, which was a huge food chain company, and indirectly it was a huge real estate company as well, since the many of the McDonald's retail units were like owned by McDonald's. So it's a huge real estate company, parallel to the food company as well. So this kind of asset, why is it not getting created? Why people are not opting for buying out properties for their own use?
It's a very simple fact. As I said, the Indian real estate market is the prices are very high. Basically, investing in property is very capital intensive. It's not that the retailers don't want to invest. You said during 90s, 2000, like a lot of retailers
2000, yeah,
bought this
yeah.
because the time the property prices were very low. So we were just emerging. But now it is impossible to find. For example, if you have big anchor tenants, as I said before, in a mall, normally the mall developers or owners doesn't want to sell because that's not the right mall, so they will not get a space. and a lot of retailers find it very capital intensive to buy. Though they don't want to mean rentals are one of the main components. Probably it takes about 15 to 20% of their OPEX, But even though they're still willing to go on a rental because they can't, if a brand wants to multiply, they can't have that kind of investment to buy. Being said that, there are a couple of retailers, you said, right? You said McDonald's, and you have other, like, in fact, one of the best retailer in India now is DMart, owned by Mr. Rajesh Damani. He's the second richest person up next to Mukesh Bhai, Ambani, right? So DMart's market cap is about 1.5 lakh crores. His model is only to buy, so that he keeps his OPEX very low, because he doesn't have to pay rentals. So he goes on a buying model, and then in fact, DMart is one of the best retail brands in India at the moment. So it's not the question about why they're leasing or not. They're not able to buy because the cost of the investment is high. That's the only reason most of the retailers doesn't buy. But if you say that, brands like IKEA, maybe Walmart, a lot of brands, Walmart didn't come, but they were looking for a buy model than a lease model. They were equity rich.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the reason, yeah.
Okay, so like what actually the thing is, like, what do you prefer as an investor? Like, would you prefer like investing into retail? Since you are into real estate as well, actually we are a retail owner, but still as a wider perspective, do you think that retail investments makes more sense than any kind of commercial or residential investment for capital yielding? In case as an investor, not as a buyer, if I invest into retail unit, will it give me more capital every month? Do you think something like that? Actually?
Well, actually, since I have a mall and I've leased out my property, if you retail investment is good. I mean, investing in retail property is very good. Actually, your returns are high. Probably it could go anywhere between 7 to 10%. But again, as the retail industry is it's very a dynamic industry. It depends upon the location, the season, the brand. Over a period of time, people lose interest in the brand. The brand actually the sales goes down, and then the retailers come back to you in terms of renegotiation. Whereas if you invest in commercial, your yield might be a little bit lower, but at least your tenants are there for a longer time, because they won't complain about retail going down, or So I mean, you're there, it's whether you do your business well. That's the only reason. It's not depending upon the building itself. We are only a facilitator, so you don't have that kind of problem about your tenant leaving for a longer time. Residential, I mean,
you're telling me that the retail would have the tenancy exits frequently.
Yes, very much. That's the only downside of it. I mean, your yield high, but again, every time you need to start looking for new tenants. Correct. And during probably like the time between your tenant exists and then your new tenant comes is almost like 3 to 6 months at least. Then they have fit out, so you have like 6 months of your rental loss. So seeing that, I would rather invest in a commercial property where the yield is little bit lesser, but again, you have a long-term perspective.
Retention is there.
And residential, I mean, you can do invest, but again, the yield is very low.
Very low. Correct.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mr. Zarook, actually, and also like I wanted to ask a kind of question which is always comes into my mind. See, now things are changing and everything. So now in the commercial aspects, if we get to see that, like people have started work from home, and by with this particular phrase and everything, the commercial things are going down, and the units are becoming vacant. Many of the spaces are becoming vacant, and it's on the use. Probably, I don't know, this might put up a pause on the prices, or the prices might go down also. It depends on the developer, or it depends on the investor who's been there, who's the owner of the property. So this is happening in the commercial. This has become a solution, a kind of a temporary solution, what we can say, for the commercial. But in the retail, it is not possible. The retail is something where as a customer, you should have your presence over. The retail unit is set up something for that, where you need to go and get your services availed. And the retail units, we don't have some kind of work from home or something like that. It doesn't work like that. So that's a unit over there. So thinking this, the only solution is to modify the retail unit as a social, by considering the fact that social distancing has to be maintained. Which means, you need to leave space, you need to modify the things accordingly, where one customer should have a space between two customers, everything. So this has to be, like carried on. By putting this into consideration, do you think the retailers will look for some larger retail spaces hereby, like considering this fact? the people who are having lower retail spaces would go for, like bigger spaces. Do you think this will change over?
On the contrary, because of the entire situation, the whole retail industry is going to have a big impact. Now, what is happening is most of the retailers are looking for an omni-channel platform. That is the way forward. In fact, today I have a message from Burberry, telling you can just sit at home, we'll and shop from home, So they do a video conferencing
Okay.
and show me what is there. And this again, I've been talking to an electronic store.
Okay.
So in fact, that on the contrary, because of the rentals, they want to bring down the size of the spaces and give a more of omni-channel retail experience to the client, so that having having less inventory at the premises, they can have their larger inventory in the warehouses, centralized warehouses, and then show these inventory to the customer in different platforms. Could be video conferencing, could be your online app or voice calls, whatever. And in the longer term, since the retail industry has been really affected, people will hesitate to take a bigger step of being going for a bigger format. They look for ideas to having a smaller format with an omni-channel platform. So I think that's the way forward. Again, as I said, things are very dynamic at the moment.
Dynamic,
So
yeah.
only after say 6 months we'll really know how the industry is going to evolve. So as of now, my personal opinion, my thinking is, I think even larger format stores will try to reduce the sizes where they've been in a 50,000 square feet, or they would want to reduce at 30,000 square feet, but still keep the same inventory in merchandising. They can do it because of the technology. So in fact, maybe even 3 months ago, we never thought about having an interview in Zoom, right? So now we are doing it. So the whole dynamic. So this is across.
Exactly. What you said is right. On the contrary, I would like to make one more point. On the contrary, whatever the point which I said, do you think that, the retailers, see, the early question was, like whether they would opt for a bigger space since they to maintain the social distancing. This is one side. On the contrary, what I have is whether they would cut off or filter off the front end part of the, like the retail thing, and they would be maintaining only, for an instance, I can say, like takeaways are becoming more higher in the food industry because people are not showing up in the unit, so takeaways is becoming more high. Even the grocery stores, they're enhancing their logistics, they're enhancing the delivery model where they can directly go to their home and deliver it. So now, do you think the front face, I'm talking about the front end retail part, retail owners, owners and entrepreneurs and everything, they will cut off their front end and they will concentrate only on the back end, where they'll maintain only the inventory and they'll enhance the logistics. In that way, they will, what I'm trying to say is they'll try to rule out the showroom model, like where people can directly go and shop it. And they will be preferring only a back end model where they can maintain the inventory. And as you said, they can rightly show through omni-channel or virtual thing or something like that. They can give the list to the people. They can directly deliver it to the home. So this is one more on the contrary. Do you think that will go off? People will, reduce choosing the showroom model, showrooms and everything, showroom retail units?
No, definitely. I don't think so. It will go off.
Gotcha.
As I said, when we had the conversation 3 months, I think it's almost 3 months ago, right? 2.5 months ago. The fear factor, once the fear factor goes, and again, as I said, we are social animals. We need to go and socialize. We need to go out and maybe entertain. So, I mean, we need to go to retail spaces for having that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Omni-channel is going to enhance a seamless customer experience. It will not change the format itself. Definitely, there will be showrooms. Definitely, there will be people interaction. For example, 100 years ago, Spanish flu came. Do you think after that stores closed? No. I mean, that was a bigger epidemic. 50 million people got affected. Okay, now we are equally bad.
Yes.
So again, it's only temporary. And the brick and mortar store will never, inshallah, go. It will be there. But you'll have a more enhanced customer experience. In fact, now it's going to be a big bonanza for the customer. The ease of shopping will be much easier. The experience will be much better. Most stores will go for an experiential shopping. In fact, if you go to China, there are physical stores, but everything is automated. It's all contactless, So in terms of your putting in the things in the basket, everything is automated till you check out. Even in Japan, I mean, the stores will be manned only by 1 or 2% just to help you. Everything is automated till your checkout is automated. So those kind of formats will evolve. We'll have a much better user experience, basically.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. Now, actually, we have, like we were talking about one particular sector. Now, we have the another sector, which is a hospitality. Now, I wanted to, apart from the COVID thing and all the stuff like that, actually. See, you said retail yielding is one of the highest capital yielding sector and everything. How about hotels, hospitality sector, Mr. Zaru? Because, like I'm getting to see, like even personally, I've seen, I've experienced such things, where we invest in suites, hotel suites, like in US and in Dubai. I'm talking about the Gulf countries and all those things. There are so many hotels, where they sell off to the investors, and the capital yield is also very high. And it's, to be very forthright, it's more secure than other things, because they give so much of security. They give very easy exits. Why those kind of hotel suite investment is not, like quite emerging in India? Do you think that has a huge market space once things get onto the track? Probably, do you think people will start investing into hotel suites, or what is the thing which is quite lacking in India actually when you get to compare with other things? Yeah, please.
It's a very interesting question. It's very funny also because okay, since I lived in Japan, it's very common, when you invest in hotel suites and then basically not in the hotel itself or not in shares in that, you invest in the particular number of rooms, so that your returns are basically how the rooms are sold.
Yeah.
In fact, when we even
They
for
give an
old can
assurance as well, right? They give an assurance whether the room is sold or something like that. They give an assurance to give you this much money or something like that.
normally like the yield is quite high, it's anywhere upwards of about 15%, so I mean, so
Yeah.
it's not it's at least twice as much as your FDs. In fact, when we wanted to go for expansion for Holken, now we have 18 rooms. We were planning to expand to about 18 rooms, which is to 20 rooms, which is the right size. We didn't want to go for a debt because of interest. We didn't want to go for interest model. So
Wonderful.
what we thought was we were thinking of different models, and then the exact model which we worked out, and we had yeah, approached investors based on how we sold and we gave plans for investment in cottages. There are about 10 cottages we need to construct. We gave them a business plan for each cottage and how much revenues we'll get. Probably like the hotel occupancy can range anywhere between 40 to 70%. And the returns, so when we worked out, even with the minimum occupancy of 30 to 40%, their rate of, return was almost like 50, yield was 15%, minimum.
Okay.
And the upside could be anywhere between 20 to 30%. So we never know, And again, as I said, we gave them a minimum of 3-year lock-in because we need to construct, and then the hotel has to be operating, those rooms has to be operating. After that, they can exit anytime. So in fact, an investor is looking for a short-term or maybe midterm or long-term, it's much better investment compared to any other investment model. This is not been so much tried in India. Probably why had people might think of this model, and then probably it's all about marketing and selling. If it's sold, I think there'll be a huge market for this.
Okay.
And
do you feel
funnily,
it's a win-win strategy actually? Do you feel it's a win-win strategy for both the investors and the?
In fact, we already got investors for this model, so they're very happy, and we are also happy.
Superb. Oh.
But coming back to your question, we already have this model in different format. For example, if you're talking about Mahindra Holidays or Stelling, it is again time share. So we invest in the number of room nights. If you slightly tweak the model, they can also say, okay, you invest in the particular for a room, so we will get your
you get leverages to stay 14 nights or 14 days or something like that.
You get all. This model existing, but in a different format. They just have to tweak the model. That's about it. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think it's a very good business model.
Wonderful. So fortunately, I put up a right question, so where you can answer because you are the right person to answer about this as owning a resort over there. Actually,
you asked me this, because we're exactly doing the same thing now.
Wonderful. So probably we can expect such kind of investments, in future. Once things gets into normal, everything. So once people wanted it, because the only investments what they know is land. Only investments now people are quite millionaires are emerging. They're investing into residential properties and commercial and everything. So these are also kind of investment which is there in real estate. We can invest in hotel suites. We can invest in resorts and investments, everything which gives you high capital yielding. Good. So okay, we're getting into the end of the session. My final question is, do you think apart from retail, hospital, everything, as a real estate, because basically you are into real estate, obviously you're owning the properties and every stuff like that, do you think the real estate market is really highly fragmented in India? Why? Because if you get to see other countries, if you get to see like China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, US, UK, European countries, and all the stuff actually. The real estate is something a very matured market space. It's very high, like what? It's one of the highest capital yielding market space. As I already said you, it's one of the biggest commodity sector. They give that much, a systematical definition to the real estate industry. It works something, like what, where real estate developers won't even focus into sales and marketing. They completely outsource the sales and marketing to the real estate agents, or the so-called real estate consultants. And the consumers will never get to face real estate developers when buying the properties. They will always face only real estate agents or consultants. For instance, if you want to go buy a property in Singapore, you cannot directly get it from a developer. If you want to go buy it from Malaysia, you cannot directly get it from a developer. You need to face real estate consultants, and only from that you will be getting it. So that the developers, we can focus on the developing part, and the sales and marketing can be completely focused by the consultant part. So this is a system which has been created even by the governments. So the systematical definition has been clearly set in other countries. But here in India, it's on the contrary, it's total, like kind of upside down what's happening over here, because the real estate developers has to be the developers, has to be the sales and marketing team. They need to sell off their properties, they need to lease their properties, and the consultants, everyone is becoming a consultant. Every street has 2-3 brokers. Here, a mechanic is a broker, electrician is a consultant. As I was discussing with Mr. Bhupesh from Indra Projects. He was telling the broker term has gone wrong in India. People are terming that as a third-rated word, because broker is such a huge, humongous, a job which is in other countries. It's a huge dignified thing where a broker has to be really qualified for doing all these things. He was mentioning that the brokers would be highly with proper suits and everything, qualified consultants in other countries, but whereas in India everyone is a broker now. So this is happening in India. It's totally fragmented, unorganized. The developers are getting to people are judging developers as real estate mafias. This is what happening right now, because they know no good this thing is there, actually shape is there for the real estate developers. It's highly fragmented. Now, what do you think actually? So do you think that this particular consultancy, real estate consultants and the agents has to be really qualified, and how emergingly the system has to be changed? What do you think? And do you prefer exclusive consultants and management for your properties? And if that's so, why? Please give an explanation, because this is the one common question why I asked to all the people, because this has to be reached on, because there has to be some kind of changeover which has to happen in the real estate industry, because real estate industry is the 10% GDP of our country, and it's going to be a 13% GDP by 2025. So one of the huge, humongous sector, but still unorganized. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So you heard about the word Jugaad, right?
Jugaad, yes. Correct.
So the Jugaad mentality is actually ingrained in our psychology, our brain. So that's how we work. We want to micromanage everything. That's the. I mean, I worked in Japan for 20 years. So I mean, their people specialize in certain strengths they have. So, but India, it's a good thing. Jugaad is a good thing because we can multitask and we do everything. So that's why you see an electrician as a broker, and you see your auto drivers. Everybody does everything, and it's a great thing. That's why India is India, because of Jugaad mentality. But again, as you said, it's since you were mentioning real estate is the number two sector after agriculture. So the sector is actually very unorganized, and personally, I feel you having a management consultant for your properties is a very good way. You can go on your core strengths. For example, you're a developer. You can think about how good your property can be. You can go for design aspects and what you can value add for your customers. The rest you can actually have the help of property consultants. But now, actually, there are a lot of property consultants. You have JLL, you have Cushman, you have CBRE. In fact, we have some property to be developed, which we have hired property consultants for us. That's our family took a decision. And most of the big builders do have property consultant to manage the properties, and then they consider the core and on their strengths. The property consultant help them all the way from raising finances in terms of market survey, in terms of pricing, marketing, and I think even though probably they might, I wouldn't say expensive. Obviously, we need to pay them for their services. I wouldn't mind, or it is really helpful and beneficial paying that extra percentage to a property consultant, and then have all the headaches removed from you, and then you can just concentrate on your core strength, which is building. Which is how you can build and how you can do a better building. and the rest you all give it to your property consultant. And as you said, this sector could be highly organized with the help of property management consultants.
Okay.
And I think that should be the way forward.
And the consultant has to be qualified. That's very important. It's to be really qualified. Yes.
And in fact, even in the US, you need, if you're a real estate agent, you need to have a qualification to become.
Correct. Exactly.
So you need to have qualifications. You need to have certain criteria. I mean, as you rightly said, obviously they should have some criteria. They should have some test or whatever to have a certificate. Yeah. Once you do that, and personally, I would avail the services, and it will be a very good bridging the gap between the consumers and the developers and landowners. I think that should be the way.
Wonderful. And hope actually, like you've given pretty much super good informations and everything. I hope with all these things actually put in factor everything. Even now RERA has came, and like it's quite redefining the industry, and it's coming up with so much of restrictions and benefits for the consumers. Even though it's becoming quite a hassle for the real estate developers, but still it's highly beneficial for the consumers and everything. It's putting up an organized factor and everything. And thank you, Mr. Zarook, for giving such beautiful information, data regarding your company as well, regarding the organizations as well. And it was really beneficial. I hope it will reach out to the audience very well, very effectively. And do you have any last point to finish it off before winding up the session? If you have, please.
No, every time I enjoy talking with you. Last time also, it didn't feel like an interview. It just felt like having a nice conversation. And in fact, with your questions, you made me think of a lot of insights, And for me, probably I'm with my real estate, my retail also, I kind of have my certain directions, I might not have without this interview. It's a great interview, and I hope this reaches a lot of people, and hope it benefits a lot of people. And if any of the listeners or the people who watch it wants to have any questions, please ask them to get in touch with me. Definitely. And all the best for your channel and for your business as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zarook. Yeah.
Thank you.